Okay, let's get started. Are you ready, Matt?
I am. Thanks for asking.
Okay. So yeah, hello everyone. So thank you for coming to our webinar today. So our data crash course is a monthly event where we help people to work with data better. So and today in our data crash course number 2, we will talk about applying holistic for business user. Matt Castle, the director of business development, will be the host of today. So please welcome Matt.
Thanks, Sai. Happy to be here and talk to everyone today. So yeah, once again, thanks everybody for joining. Today, I'm going to be talking about how you can use holistics and specifically how you can use holistics or applying it for your business users. To kick things off, I'll just introduce holistics very quickly for those of you who don't know us. I'll introduce myself and then I can get into some of the updates for today. So holistics business intelligence software helps data teams streamline their data visualization process from the initial data preparation all the way to the visualization. We work with your existing data infrastructure and help automate a lot of the manual processes that a lot of teams go through in order to build out reports. As far as myself, as Hai mentioned, I'm the Director of Business Development for Holistic Software. Been in startup sales for the last 5 years. 4 of those were in business intelligence, helped hundreds of companies select a BI tool, had thousands of conversations with people around what they're looking for within the business intelligence landscape. So have a lot of background and industry knowledge there. So as far as what we'll be talking about today, we'll kick things off with just kind of a general update and a sharing of our latest releases. After that, I'll get into kind of the meat of the presentation, which we were calling Bridging the Data Skills Gap. That's going to be showing you a few things that you can do with holistics to help your business users get more value out of the product. The first component of that's going to be about extracting data that you need. The second component will be the data exploration piece. After that, I'll go over how to pull in data from data sources you might have, such as Google spreadsheets. After that, we'll just briefly discuss how to export and automate data out of holistics. And at the very end, we'll have a question and answer. So feel free to send in any questions that you might have. So the first question that we tend to get on webinars is, what have we been up to? So for those of you who haven't seen some of our newer features, we just pushed out sorting for visualizations. This allows you to apply sorts to your visualizations, and you can choose the axis you might want to do that by. I'll make sure to cover this today as well so you can see it with live data. Another huge thing for us is conditional formatting and table charts. You can see an example here, and I'll make sure to, once again, show an example of this today as well. But basically, you can set some sort of condition, and it will change or highlight the chart so that you can see the values that might be popping out. As far as what's next or what we have coming up, this is our public-facing product roadmap. So from here, you can see that we're working on a ton of things, a lot of things that people have been sending in. Some of the ones that I'm most excited about are PDF email exports, as well as the ability to filter metric sheets, or supporting more filters on metric sheets, and I'll show that today as well. So if there's anything, any questions there, let me know. If not, I'm happy to jump into kind of the meat of the presentation today, which is applying holistics for business people. So I think to kick things off, it's really kind of helpful maybe just to set a little bit of industry context. And by that, I mean, companies are typically asking questions of their data. The way that they do that is through asking questions of some sort of database, and the output is typically in the form of some sort of chart, KPI, or visualization. Now, as far as the business intelligence landscape, most people or most business intelligence tools can visualize the same end results. But where things really kind of happen behind the scenes is in the preparation of data for people to work with. So a huge chunk of the time spent working with data happens before it even touches a business intelligence tool or a traditional business intelligence tool. Because I think for business people, something that isn't always apparent is just the tremendous amount of work that comes into play when data teams are working with data and getting things together. So a lot of these processes are just incredibly manual and tedious. But if you're a business person, you submit a data request, you don't really understand or don't always know the amount of work that kind of needs to happen before the data team can act on that. So a huge component of that work is spent manipulating the data and wrangling it, because the actual visualization and dashboard creation components are very quick a lot of the time, especially if people know what they want to see or they know the data set that they're working from. Or maybe you're at an organization that leverages data for more advanced use cases, and maybe you're applying machine learning algorithms to your data. As far as like the main component of that work, that's going to happen with the data team behind the scenes. And business teams don't always have as much clarity into what's happening there. And as I mentioned, one of the things within Holistics is we actually allow you to automate a lot of these processes. So if you're not leveraging the ETL functionality of Holistics, maybe some people use us entirely as a SQL query tool, I would definitely encourage you to leverage some of those features that we have, especially around data transformations or query templates, so that you can build out your organization in such a way that it's a lot easier and a lot more scalable for people to answer their own questions look like. Now, where Holistics comes into play is we help the entire process, so the full iceberg. And I'll go into each one of these components very briefly, but you can see here, Holistics helps you consolidate your various data sources together. You can prepare the data sources within Holistics as well. And then you can create insights and then deliver those out to your users. So the first component of this is data consolidation. This is putting all of your data sources together in one place. The way that that is done, or the way that this is done, is through a data warehouse or a database to report from. From here, you can go into the data management component. Holistics offers enterprise-grade data access controls. This is something that we actually did our first webinar on. I would highly recommend checking it out. The next component to this as well is a data caching layer for performance improvements. And finally, data modeling. So for those of you who work on a data team, you know that business logic does not necessarily align to data logic. With Holistics, you can define important things for your organization so that everyone's working from the same place. Now, the two last kind of pieces here, the insight generation, data delivery, is where we're really going to spend a lot more time talking today and what I'm going to be showing you within Holistics. As far as the way that insights are generated, this is done leveraging SQL, which is the language of working with databases. Holistics has a lot of tools to make it easier for people who are SQL savvy to build reports out very quickly in a very scalable manner. At the same time, we also provide a lot of tools for self-service analytics for less technical people. Additionally, we make it very easy to share data out with key people on the team, as well as set up alerts so that if a metric changes, you'll be able to get informed of that. So that's kind of a recap of the Holistics data platform. Any questions there? If not, I'll keep moving on. Great. So the three kind of main roles within Holistics are business users. These are people who can view reports and dashboards. The next kind of component to this is analyst users, people who can build and edit reports. And finally, there's administrators, people who have full control over an organization. So what I'll be showing today is how business users, or I'll spend a lot of time today about how business users can interact with reports and dashboards that are shared with them, as well as kind of the analyst component as well on how they can easily pull data that they might need. So the first thing is extracting the data that you need without asking technical teams for help. So give me a second here. I'm just going to pull up my Holistics demo environment. This is an example of Holistics. So you can see here, there's a couple tabs up at the top for manage, analyze, and reporting. So the first component I'm sharing today is about how to pull data sets you might need. So the way to do that would be to go to analyze. And I'll clear this out really quick. And one of the things that Holistics does is we actually allow you in a point and click rather than like a drag and drop interface, you can simply point on a table you might need to use. In this case, we have data that we pulled in from Excel in a finance table. So I can hit analyze here. Holistics will actually run a SQL query for me without me needing to know SQL, as I'm very much a business user, and we'll pull out the report from here. You'll see that we give you visualization settings. Maybe you want to view something as a line chart. We can very quickly do that, but we can also see the underlying chart data down here below too. So it's very easy for you to come in and see what's going on, or the data set, that makes up this specific visualization. So you can see another example here with the table data. I'm just going to bring this back down to a table because I know I talked about conditional formatting, and maybe I can just show how that works really, really quickly while we're here. So we can add a conditional formatting rule. In this case, maybe we want to see if sales is more than a certain amount, we can make it turn red. And I'll hit apply. And we now have conditionally formatted this column here. So that's an example of how to extract data from Holistics if you're less technical. Of course, for those of you who are more on the technical side, you can write any SQL query that you might want directly in the underlying SQL of your database. So the next thing that I can talk about today is, and I'll just pull this up here, is data exploration to find the answers that you might need with smart pivots, charts, and conditional formatting. So I will go back to our reporting tab. And you can see here, this is the list of dashboards that I have access to. In this case, I'll go into the Holistics embedded dashboard. And I'll pull this up really quickly. So one of the things that we talk about within Holistics, is that business users are able to get onboarded with what we call a zero learning curve. And this is something that one of our customers told us. And what that really means is we give you a lot of tools for your business teams to come in and interact with things on a dashboard level like this without having to really understand the underlying way that the chart was built, which is SQL. So we give you filters to apply. So you can come in, you can select various toggles, and it'll update the dashboard accordingly. Maybe it's they want to see something by a specific customer. All a business person has to do is select that customer, hit apply, and the data will change for that specific client. In this case, I'm going to deselect this, and I'll hit apply, and we'll have now the complete range of data. So a couple things to note on a chart level, and I'm just going to close up this filters tab too, is for any visualization, you can actually click into it so you can filter things out on kind of a more ad hoc basis. For data tables, you can scroll through. So if it's a long table, you can see the list of things there. And I'll scroll down here too, just so you can see some other visualization options. Now, a couple things to note here is we give you the ability to create drill downs. So a business person can actually come in, they can click into a specific chart, and it'll actually, in this case, we actually have annotations here. So you can see that someone's actually been going in annotating along the way. This allows business people to come in and click into things and to further explore the data that they might want to see. Now, from here, I'll actually just go back really quick to our main dashboard, and I'll show a couple other dashboard level features that allow people to further explore data. So the next thing I'll point out is our pivoting ability. So pivot tables remain one of the most common things that people build out within business intelligence tools. And you can see here we have this dashboard, and we have a list based on these categories here underneath. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the Explore Result functionality. And this allows us to explore the results as a business person rather than an analyst. So I can come in, I can actually hit this Pivot Data button here, and I can come in, I can select what I want to pivot on. So in this case, I'll add city and category to the rows, year and quarter to the columns, and total and sold to the values. And you'll see here we have now created a pivot table from the data set that we might want to work from. Something else to note here too is, and this is going to be coming out very soon, is soon people will be able to export data out from this Explore mode. So if you're a business person, you can now create a pivot table on the fly based on something that a technical person has set up for you. And then you can come and you can export out the results and then share it with your team. That is how you can leverage dashboards to build out reports or to answer your own business questions. Yeah, so the next thing that we'll talk about is how you can self-serve data imports from various files that you might have and push them into your database. So something that I touched on a little bit at the beginning, but the main way that people interact with data is through a database and through leveraging SQL. But a lot of times data that people are working with doesn't necessarily live in the database that they need it to be. In this case, we have an upload or Google Sheet that we want to pull in. I can actually come in, select the Google Sheet here, go to our data imports feature, select new data import, and just by selecting Google Sheet and entering the Google Sheet URL, we can actually start uploading this to our database so that we can work with it. You can see here some of the other data sources that Holistics supports. And you can very easily automate this process. So for a lot of data engineers, a huge chunk of their time is spent importing data into a database and transforming it. Something else we'll touch on very briefly, as this is a session for business users, but your data team can actually come into Holistics and apply various transformations to the data such that if there's things that need to be modified in it, you can set this up to happen automatically rather than having to format a spreadsheet every single time it comes to you. So there's a lot of features that allow people to come in and very quickly manipulate data so they can continue to work with it. So to go back to data imports, you can see here we can just very quickly see the list of things that we're pushing to our demo database. In this case, we have Google Spreadsheets, a Google folder, MySQL, and MongoDB. So a lot of companies have just so many different data sources. Holistics allows you to automate a huge component of this so that your data team can be a lot more efficient and business people can get the data that they need when they need to get it. So the next kind of final component of this is exporting and automating schedules for sharing reports out. So I'll go back to an example that I showed earlier, which is the embedded dashboard. And I'll go to my quick pivots, and I'll just open this very quickly as an external report. So one of the huge things with Holistics, one of the huge values that we offer is providing data to people where they want it to be. Meaning a lot of business users interact with Holistics from a dashboard level, but a lot of other people like to see things in Slack, or maybe they want to export it to a Google Sheet. With Holistics, you're able to push the data where people want it to be. So one of the other things you can do too is you can actually have shareable links. And this allows you to just very quickly share a link with someone, as well as advanced user management permissions here, where you can easily share with users and groups. I'm just going to take a sip of water really quick. But you can see here schedules, and you can send this out to your email, your Slack, as well as Google Sheets. And here's the schedule manager, where you can create a new schedule to send something out to. You can also choose send all to send it everywhere else you might want to be. And if you are more on the technical side, you can actually set up API reports to pull data out of Holistics through an API. So one other feature that I didn't talk about today that I should probably cover very quickly, and I know it wasn't listed, so that's how you export and automate scheduling emailed reports. But something else that I should probably show as well is a feature that we have, or excuse me, something we have called metric sheets. So metric sheets are a way that allows business people, especially C-level executives, to see the key metrics that they might want to see. So let me just move this out of the way. Whoops. But you can see here, if people want to see things in more of kind of a spreadsheet style view, you can actually come in and build these out within Holistics. Something else to point out as well is data teams can come in, they can define specific metrics to the business, and people can then leverage those metrics that people have created for them. So a lot of companies might have certain revenue metrics that they have defined. Once you have it defined once, you can just call that metric going forward, and you can add these to dashboards as well. So when we talk about data governance, data teams can define things for business people, and then business people always know that the number that they're looking at is the correct number. And once again, they're able to just very quickly interact with this data in a point and click. They can also come in and change time series as well as date ranges very quickly, leveraging this calendar filter functionality. So that's a lot of the core presentation today. You know, if people want me to talk a little bit more about the business intelligence landscape, I'm happy to do so. Otherwise, you know, if there's any other questions, be happy to answer those.
Okay. So I think we have around three questions from the audience. The first question is, for visualization, is there any way to sort the chart? Can you answer this?
Yeah, there is. I know I mentioned that earlier and I didn't show it, so thanks for thanks for calling that one out. So let me show you really quickly on this dashboard. So we can come in and we can sort, let's say on the x-axis, and we can select a various sort that we might want to do. And I'll show another example just kind of down here because it might be a little easier to see. So yeah, you can definitely apply sorts to charts. And someone else asked if you can export data out. You can see here, there's quite a different way, or quite a few different ways that you can export the chart out of Holistics. Additionally, whoops, just clicked incorrectly there. You can download the raw data as an Excel file, CSV. You can also clone it out, and you can share a link. So I hope I answered that question. What else do we have here? Oh, conditional formatting. Can we highlight a whole row?
Yeah.
You can. So let me show you that same example that I showed earlier. I'll hit run query here, and I'll just pull up the chart really quick. So just bear with me 1 second. Let's go to styles, conditional formatting. I'll go into sales. Select that, we'll hit apply. Now, if we wanted to apply that to the entire row, we can do that from here. I want to follow up there. Thanks everyone for joining. We really appreciate your time. And if you're a customer, thank you for taking the time. And if you're not a customer, we're excited to have the chance to work with you. Once again, everyone, thanks for your time today. We really appreciate it.